Of things some are in our power, and others are not. Epictetus, the Enchiridion. Most of your exhaustion does not come from carrying what is yours. It comes from trying to carry what never belonged to you. Other people's opinions, the final outcome, the timing of events, the past, the future, whether you are understood, whether you are rewarded, whether the person you love chooses to stay. You call this responsibility because responsibility sounds noble, but beneath it is often something more desperate. You are trying to negotiate with uncertainty. You are trying to make life promise that if you think hard enough, prepare carefully enough, and behave perfectly enough, nothing painful will happen. Life never made that promise, and the longer you demand it, the more power you surrender to everything you cannot command. Epictetus began his Enchiridion with a division so simple that people often underestimate how dangerous it is to ignore. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Your judgments, intentions, choices, and actions belong to you. Your body's perfect health, your reputation, your status, other people's behavior, and the final consequences of events do not belong to you in the same way. You can influence many of them, you can care for them, you can work toward them, but you cannot issue them orders. Confusing influence with ownership is where anxiety becomes a way of life. Imagine sending an important message and watching the screen afterward. You chose the words, you checked the tone, you told the truth as clearly as you could. Then the message left your hands, but your mind followed it. You wonder how it will be interpreted. You reread it, you picture offense where there may be none. You prepare answers to accusations that have not been made. Your actual responsibility ended when you communicated with care. But because you want control over the response, you remain psychologically trapped inside someone else's phone. The message took seconds to send. The attempt to control its reception can consume the entire night. This is the first distinction you must recover. Letting go of an outcome does not mean you stop caring about what happens. It means you stop pretending that care gives you command. A doctor can care deeply and still be unable to guarantee recovery. A parent can teach wisely and still be unable to choose a child's character. You can love someone honestly and still be unable to make them love you well. The mature mind does not withdraw effort. It withdraws the fantasy that effort purchases certainty. If this is the kind of philosophy that helps you see your own life more clearly, subscribe. This channel is about turning difficult ideas into strength you can actually use. Need for control rarely announces itself by saying, "I am afraid." It usually disguises itself as preparation. You tell yourself you are being thorough. You need one more plan, one more opinion, one more sign that the decision is safe. Preparation is useful when it leads to action. It becomes fear when its hidden purpose is to remove all possibility of regret. No amount of research can do that. Every meaningful decision closes one future and exposes you to another. If certainty is the price of movement, you will spend your life standing still. Consider the person who wants to change careers. They compare salaries, study qualifications, read every warning, and ask 10 people what they would do. At first, this is intelligent. 6 months later, the questions have not changed. They are no longer collecting information. They are asking information to take responsibility for the choice. They want the numbers to announce a future with no disappointment, no embarrassment, and no loss. Because the future refuses, they remain in a job they already know is hollowing them out. They avoided the risk of making a wrong decision by accepting the certainty of making no decision. Epictetus would pull their attention back from the imagined verdict of the future. Is the success of the new career completely yours? No. Markets change, companies fail, people become ill, opportunities disappear. But is the quality of your present judgment yours? Is the honesty with which you examine your motives yours? Is the discipline to acquire a skill yours? Is the courage to make a considered decision yours? Yes. The future is not your possession. Your present use of reason is. When you abandon what belongs to you because you cannot guarantee what does not, you reverse the natural order of your own power. This reversal appears everywhere. You neglect today's work while imagining tomorrow's recognition. You weaken an honest conversation by trying to engineer the other person's reaction. You spend the evening reviewing a past moment as if enough analysis might reopen it. Your attention, which is one of the few things you can direct, becomes a servant of events that are absent, finished, or owned by someone else. The result feels like excessive responsibility, but it is actually the abandonment of responsibility. You have left your post. Think about a meeting at work. You present an idea, and a senior colleague barely responds. For the rest of the day, you interpret the silence. Perhaps the idea was foolish. Perhaps your standing has changed. Perhaps someone else has already taken credit. You begin adjusting your behavior around a judgment you invented. The colleague may have been distracted, unconvinced, tired, or simply reserved. None of those possibilities are under your command. What is under your command is whether you presented the idea carefully, whether you can answer criticism, whether you follow up, and whether one unreadable expression is allowed to govern your self-respect. The uncontrolled mind treats every uncertain signal as a command. A delayed reply commands worry. A disappointed face commands guilt. A closed door commands self-doubt. A change of tone commands investigation. Soon you are not living according to principles. You are living according to weather. Every expression around you changes the climate inside you, and you call this sensitivity. But sensitivity without inner government becomes captivity. You do not need to become cold. You need to stop granting every signal authority. This is especially difficult for people who learned early that safety depended on reading the room. Perhaps a parent's mood determined whether home was peaceful. You learned to notice footsteps, pauses, doors closing, and the weight of a sigh. That attention once protected you. It helped you predict danger before danger had a name. But an old survival skill can become a private ruler. Years later, you still believe that if someone near you is unhappy, you must have missed something, caused something, or failed to prevent something. Their emotion becomes your assignment. Imagine visiting your family and noticing that your mother is disappointed by how little time you can stay. You have been kind. You explained your obligations. You offered another date. Yet her sadness follows you to the car. You begin rewriting your plans, not because your judgment changed, but because you cannot tolerate being the subject of disappointment. The feeling in her face is not yours to control. Your duty is to act with respect, honesty, and proportion. If you sacrifice every considered choice until no one is displeased, you do not become loving. You become governed by the emotional reactions around you. Epictetus did not teach that other people do not matter. He taught that their minds are not material for your will. This difference matters. You should listen when you have caused harm. You should repair what is yours to repair. But guilt must have a boundary. Ask, did I deceive? Did I neglect a genuine obligation? Did I act from vanity or cruelty? Those questions return you to your conduct. Asking, how can I make sure this person never feels hurt by my choice, places you in a position no human being can occupy. You are no longer practicing love. You are attempting sovereignty over another consciousness. The same confusion poisons romantic relationships. You sense distance, so you begin managing yourself. You choose every word to prevent withdrawal. You hide a need because it might create tension. You become agreeable where you are uncertain and silent where you are hurt. You believe this carefulness is protecting the bond, but a relationship maintained by constant prediction is not intimacy. It is surveillance directed at yourself. You are trying to control whether someone stays by becoming impossible to reject, and in the process you slowly remove the person they were supposed to know. Suppose you tell your partner, calmly, that a pattern has been hurting you. You can choose honesty without contempt. You can choose timing, language, and willingness to listen. You cannot choose whether they become defensive. You cannot choose whether they understand immediately. You cannot choose whether the truth reveals an incompatibility you hoped not to see. If your standard for speaking is a guaranteed peaceful response, silence will always appear safer. But that safety is purchased with your own disappearance. Control promises protection while quietly demanding self-betrayal. It says, if you can just manage their perception, you will not be abandoned. If you can anticipate every objection, you will not be criticized. If you can remain useful enough, you will not be replaced. The promise is seductive because sometimes your strategy works. The person calms down, the meeting goes well, the relationship continues, but the success deepens the illusion. You begin to believe the outcome occurred because you controlled every variable, so next time you feel even more responsible for doing so. This creates a cruel cycle. When things go well, you credit vigilance. When things go badly, you blame insufficient vigilance. There is no evidence that can release you, because every result strengthens the same belief. You become like someone performing rituals before a storm. If the storm passes, the ritual worked. If the storm arrives, the ritual was not performed perfectly. Anxiety builds a system in which it can never be proven wrong. Epictetus offers a way to break that system. Measure yourself by the quality of your participation, not by your ownership of the result. Before the conversation, ask whether you prepared honestly. During it, ask whether you are acting according to your values. After it, ask what the event can teach you. Then stop placing yourself on trial for variables that were never yours. This is not a trick for feeling calm. It is a standard for living justly. Consider an athlete before an important competition. Training belongs to the athlete. Sleep, discipline, attention, strategy, and willingness to recover from mistakes belong to the athlete. Victory does not. The opponent has skill, the body may fail, conditions may change. If the athlete enters believing that only victory can justify the effort, fear will invade every movement. But if success means using the trained capacities well under the conditions that arrive, the athlete becomes freer to perform. Releasing the result does not weaken excellence. It removes the panic that interferes with excellence. Your ordinary life follows the same principle. You prepare for an interview, but you do not own the hiring decision. You raise a concern, but you do not own the response. You apologize sincerely, but you do not own forgiveness. You publish the work, but you do not own applause. You make an offer, but you do not own acceptance. The mind becomes steadier when it learns to complete its part and leave the rest where it belongs. This steadiness is not indifference. Indifference says nothing matters. Stoic discipline says your character matters so much that you must stop staking it on fortune. If your integrity exists only when people reward it, it is not integrity. If your courage exists only when success is guaranteed, it is not courage. If your peace exists only when everyone approves, it is not peace. The uncontrolled outcome does not make your action meaningless. It reveals what your action was truly based on. There is a reason this idea can feel frightening. If you stop trying to control everything, you lose a familiar defense against grief. You must admit that people can misunderstand you even when you speak carefully. You can make a wise choice and still suffer. You can do good work and remain unnoticed. You can love someone and lose them. The fantasy of control hurts, but it also whispers that every loss could have been prevented by a better version of you. Letting go means surrendering that whisper. It means accepting innocence where you have been assigning yourself impossible guilt. Picture a father whose adult child is struggling. He calls constantly, solves financial problems, arranges appointments, and absorbs every crisis. He tells himself that a good father never stops helping, but beneath the help is terror. If he steps back, the child may fail, and he will feel responsible. So he takes over choices that are not his to make. The immediate reward is relief. The deeper cost is that the child never fully meets the consequences required for growth, while the father's entire nervous system becomes attached to a life he cannot live on someone else's behalf. His responsibility may include love, honest counsel, and reasonable support. It does not include controlling another adult's will. Stepping back is not necessarily abandonment. Sometimes it is the only honest recognition that another person's agency exists. The father must decide what kind of help is virtuous and sustainable, then tolerate the uncertainty that remains. Otherwise, concern becomes possession, even when it wears the face of sacrifice. The desire to control can therefore hide inside virtues. Care becomes rescuing. Conscientiousness becomes perfectionism. Loyalty becomes refusal to accept change. Reflection becomes rumination. Ambition becomes terror of failure. The behavior looks admirable from the outside because its surface is effort. The question is not whether you are trying hard. The question is what your effort is serving. Is it serving the task before you, or is it serving a demand that reality remove all risk? Perfectionism is one of the clearest examples. You revise a project beyond the point of meaningful improvement. You delay showing it because exposure would place it in other people's hands. As long as the work remains unfinished, its potential remains perfect. Once released, it can be judged, ignored, misunderstood, or surpassed. Perfectionism allows you to feel devoted to excellence while avoiding the moment when excellence can no longer protect you from uncertainty. Epictetus would ask you to relocate the standard. Is universal approval up to you? No. Is flawless performance always up to you? No, because even your body and circumstances can interfere. But is sincere attention to the work up to you? Is the decision not to deceive yourself about endless revision up to you? Is the willingness to release something when further changes are only fear in ceremonial clothing up to you? Yes. Finish what belongs to you. Let judgment belong to those who judge. This principle also changes how you relate to the past. The past is the most absolute example of what is not under your control, yet many people spend enormous energy trying to renegotiate it. They replay the conversation and create a better sentence. They imagine noticing the warning sooner. They prosecute their younger selves using knowledge acquired only through the wound. Rumination feels active because the mind is moving, but movement is not always progress. A wheel can turn all night without traveling an inch. Suppose you trusted someone who later betrayed you. There may be lessons you need to learn. Perhaps you ignored evidence. Perhaps you abandoned a boundary. Perhaps the betrayal was unforeseeable. Honest reflection asks, what judgment can I improve now? Rumination asks, how can I mentally return to the scene and force it not to have happened? One question produces discernment. The other converts pain into permanent occupation. You cannot protect your former self. You can protect the self who is listening now. Afkans anfipensbet. Acceptance is often misunderstood here. People hear acceptance and imagine agreement, passivity, or approval. But acceptance is simply the refusal to lie about what has already occurred. You can condemn an action and accept that it happened. You can seek justice and accept that no verdict will erase the event. You can grieve a loss and accept that grief cannot reverse time. Acceptance does not tell you what the event deserved. It tells you where action is still possible. Without acceptance, anger often strikes at the wrong target. You become angry not only that something painful happened, but that reality had the audacity to ignore your plan. This second anger multiplies suffering. The first pain may be unavoidable. The argument with existence is optional, though never easy to release. Epictetus asks you to stop demanding that events obey your preferences before you decide how to meet them. Imagine a flight is cancelled on the morning of an important occasion. You can speak to the airline, find alternatives, inform people, and make decisions. Those actions belong to you. You can also spend an hour declaring that this should not be happening, as though outrage were a form of transportation. The cancellation may be unfair or poorly handled. Anger may alert you to action, but after the useful action is clear, continued resistance consumes the very judgment you need. The event has already taken part of your day. Your refusal to accept it offers the rest. The discipline is to distinguish preference from command. You may prefer good health, loyal friends, meaningful work, recognition, and a long life. There is nothing weak about preferring them. The danger begins when preference hardens into an order. This must happen. That must never happen. This person must understand me. My work must succeed. My plans must remain intact. Now your peace depends on reality signing a contract it never received. Epictetus was not speaking from sheltered comfort. He had lived as an enslaved person and later experienced exile. His philosophy was not built on the assumption that circumstances are gentle. It was built around a severe question. When circumstances take what they can take, what remains morally and psychologically yours? His answer was not wealth, position, bodily security, or public approval. Those could all be touched by fortune or power. What remained was the use of judgment, the direction of intention, and the choice of how to meet what arrived. This is why the distinction is not merely a method for reducing stress, it is a defense of inner freedom. If praise can make you abandon your principles, praise controls you. If criticism can make you betray your judgment, criticism controls you. If the possibility of failure prevents sincere action, failure controls you before it happens. Whatever you treat as necessary for your worth becomes capable of commanding you. Consider social media, where this vulnerability is turned into numbers. You share something, then return to measure its reception. A quiet response feels like a verdict. You adjust your voice toward what receives approval and away from what feels true. Gradually, the audience does not need to tell you what to say. The anticipation of the audience performs the censorship in advance. You still appear free because nobody issued an order, but your attention is tethered to a result you cannot own. The answer is not to pretend metrics have no practical value. If your work depends on reaching people, feedback can inform strategy, but information should serve judgment, not replace it. Check the result at a deliberate time, learn what can be learned, then return to creation. When measurement becomes compulsive, you are no longer using the number. The number is using you. To practice this philosophy, begin before the day acquires momentum. Identify the outcome you are most tempted to control. Perhaps you need someone to approve a decision. Perhaps you need a meeting to go well. Perhaps you need a message to arrive. Name it plainly, then divide the situation. On one side, place your preparation, honesty, attention, boundaries, and effort. On the other, place their reaction, the timing, chance, the final result, and everything already done. Do not use the division to avoid action. Use it to concentrate action. Then create a standard you can actually meet. Instead of saying, "This conversation must end peacefully," say, "I will speak clearly without cruelty and listen without surrendering the point." Instead of saying, "I must get this job," say, "I will prepare carefully and answer without pretending to be someone else." Instead of saying, "My family must understand," say, "I will explain once with respect and refuse to turn my life into an endless defense." A controllable standard produces direction. An uncontrollable demand produces fear. During the event, notice when your attention crosses the boundary. You will feel it happen. The interviewer's face changes, and you begin trying to read the verdict. The person pauses, and you rush to fill the silence. The work receives criticism, and you stop examining the criticism because you are defending your identity. At that moment, ask one question. What is mine now? Perhaps it is to breathe and listen. Perhaps it is to clarify. Perhaps it is to admit an error. Perhaps it is to say no. The question returns your attention to the only place where power can act. Afterward, conduct a clean review. Do not ask only whether you got what you wanted. Ask whether you used what was yours well. Were you honest? Did fear distort your behavior? Did you prepare enough? Did you ignore useful evidence? What would wisdom change next time? This review is demanding, but it is not cruel. Cruelty blames you for the weather. Discipline examines whether you brought a coat. There will still be disappointment. Stoicism is not emotional anesthesia. When the answer is no, the body will feel it. When someone leaves, absence will hurt. When work fails, grief may arrive before philosophy. The purpose is not to forbid the first wound. It is to prevent the wound from becoming a verdict on your worth, your future, and the meaning of your effort. Pain is an experience. The judgment that pain has ruined everything is an additional act of mind. Imagine preparing for a promotion for years and watching it go to someone else. You may have been treated unfairly. You may need to challenge the decision, leave the company, or change your strategy. The distinction of control does not tell you to smile and remain where you are diminished. It tells you to choose the response instead of becoming the response. Anger can provide information without becoming your ruler. Disappointment can clarify what matters without defining what you are. This is where letting go becomes strength rather than retreat. You release the demand that the company validate your value, then decide what your value requires you to do. You release the need to make a former partner regret losing you, then build a life that no longer waits for their recognition. You release the fantasy of receiving a perfect apology, then choose the boundary that reality requires. You release the hope of rewriting childhood, then refuse to let childhood write every remaining chapter. The world often mistakes this for detachment because it is accustomed to seeing attachment performed as agitation. If you are not panicking, people assume you do not care. If you do not chase, they assume you have given up. If you accept a fact, they assume you approve of it. But the calm person may be the only one seeing clearly enough to act. Epictetus does not ask you to care less. He asks you to care in the correct direction. Care about the honesty of your word more than the guarantee of being believed. Care about the quality of your work more than the guarantee of applause. Care about loving well more than the guarantee of never losing. Care about choosing wisely more than the guarantee of never regretting. These are not smaller ambitions. They are ambitions that cannot be confiscated by every change in circumstance. You may discover that much of what you called control was a refusal to be seen as limited. You wanted to be the person who always knew, always prevented, always fixed, always arrived prepared. Admitting that an outcome was not yours can feel like admitting weakness, but limitation is not failure. It is the condition of being human. Wisdom begins when your responsibility has an honest border. Think of a friend who brings you the same crisis repeatedly. You listen, advise, rescue, and lose sleep. You believe that if you find the perfect words, they will finally change. But advice cannot substitute for their decision. Your part may be compassion. It may also be a limit. You can say, "I care about you, but I cannot keep carrying this in the same way." Their disappointment may be real. So may your duty to stop participating in a pattern that harms both of you. When you stop controlling what was never yours, some people may call you different. They may have benefited from your constant anticipation. Others may simply be surprised that you no longer explain every choice until they approve. Let their reaction provide information, but do not make it your compass. A compass does not argue with the storm. It holds its direction within it. That is the deeper image of Epictetus's teaching. Your mind is not meant to control the sea. It is meant to govern the helm. The wind will change. Other vessels will move unpredictably. Some journeys will end at shores you did not choose. If you abandon the helm to shout at the weather, you lose both the impossible power you wanted and the real power you had. So when anxiety rises tonight, do not ask how to secure every outcome. Ask what belongs to you in the next moment. One honest sentence may belong to you. Closing the screen may belong to you. Preparing for an hour may belong to you. Going to sleep may belong to you. Refusing to send the fifth explanation may belong to you. Accepting that the answer has not arrived may belong to you. Freedom is often recovered through one small act that stops trespassing into the future. You will have to repeat this because the desire for control returns whenever something matters. That return does not mean the philosophy failed. It means you are standing again at the border between will and world. Each time, place your effort on the side that is yours. Let love remain love without turning it into possession. Let ambition remain ambition without turning it into a demand. Let preparation remain preparation without asking it to abolish uncertainty. Your life will not become perfectly predictable. It can become more fully yours. Not because events obey you, but because events no longer decide the quality of your character before you have chosen. You can meet praise without needing it, criticism without collapsing into it, success without worshipping it, and loss without allowing it to name you. This is the freedom Epictetus defended, not a world that cannot touch you, but a will that remembers where it lives. Finish your part. Tell the truth, make the decision, offer the apology, hold the boundary, release the work, face the result, then allow what is not yours to move beyond your command without dragging your mind behind it. You were never meant to carry the entire sea. You were meant to hold the helm. If you are ready to stop fighting the weather and return to what is yours, write one word in the comments: helm.